And the reason why I want to go over these is because I'm actually going to go over my competitive squad tonight about the patch notes and what we're going to do from there. But we did have a very good talk yesterday, or last night actually, after the patch notes about the patch notes and what we're going to be doing after the patch becomes live. So a lot of us are going into PTS. I'm not going to be streaming PTS today because this streaming PTS is a little bit redundant. I'm pretty sure DM Brandon and maybe Mez and Incon are going to do it today anyway. That's what they normally do. So we're going to go over this lovely little bit right here. So number one, since I like to start with the new gods, Erlang Shen. Definitely like the way this god was designed. He kind of reminds me a lot of Nemesis when she first came out. Pardon me. Thank you, Winamp. She reminds me a lot of Nemesis when she first came out, where she was very basic attack based. Wasn't too tanky, but wasn't too weak. She had a very fair balance to her, which definitely made her a fair god to use in a lot of different situations. So she wasn't bad, but she wasn't good. She was more like a counter pick at the time, but she was like a Bracken, where even though he's a guardian, he doesn't follow the current meta. One moment. Sorry. Did you know? Sorry about that. I had a little mother wanted to show me something. Cat in a box. Pretty much imagine that. But I definitely like the way Erlang Shen comes out. So we're going to go over him real quick. So his passive. So every time Erlang Shen hits an enemy with a basic attack, his dog hits as well for 15% of his basic attack power. Trigger items for basic attack power, 50% of the normal damage, and can critical hit. So for basic attacks. So this can proc like Jinsai. So if that's really the case, where it triggers off of item effects that require basic attacks, then that makes him incredibly strong with something like Jinsai. So he's probably going to be the only warrior you see with Jinsai. Granted, will be K4 in Tactical Gaming will say otherwise because of his Amaterasu start with Amaterasu with Jinsai. First item. I wish I didn't have to see that because it's sad, in my honest opinion. But, but he is definitely strong with that, and he definitely works with that. Amaterasu doesn't because she's very ability based. Erlang Shen is definitely kind of like an Uller. Imagine an Uller. I can kind of draw parallels with that. Except for the fact that Erlang Shen is a little bit more tanky. I might play like a little bot match later on with him, just to kind of get the feel for him. Might do that actually later today. I don't know if it'll be on stream or not, but we'll just see what happens. So his 1, Spot Weakness. Erlang Shen opens his third eye and analyzes the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. When activated, Erlang Shen gains additional physical damage from 25 to 85 plus 15% of his physical power on each strike, and ignores basic attack movement penalties for the duration of 5 seconds. While on cooldown, successful basic attacks reduce the cooldown of this ability, and its mana cost is 60 to 80, and its cooldown is 14 seconds without the pass. So, while on cooldown, successful basic... Ooh. That is a very good boxing tool. Kind of like how Chalk is a good poke tool, this is a good boxing tool. So, especially with the 72 transformations, because I was just about to slip up and say he doesn't have an escape, and then I remember he does. He actually has a knock-up and a stun? Yeah, not kind of a stun. It's like the Tiger stun without the stun. Because it stops on the first god hit, and then he increases his attack speed. So, instead of... It still stops at the first god hit. Hey, YOLO. So it still stops at the first god hit, but instead of stunning, it gives him more. It actually gives him more boxing potential. I kind of see why they didn't stun them because it increases basic attack speed again, and he also has he already technically has double basic attacks, not counting for the reduction of the basic attack power. Instead of hitting for 100% of his basic attack power, he hits for only 85%, or he loses 85% when he uses the dog. So it's kind of like a like a 1 1/8 increase to normal basic attack. So that's kind of how I kind of imagine it. The math is probably a little bit off. I'm just kind of like estimating because I don't want to work out the math right now. But if it did stun, that would be incredibly strong. However, I would have liked to see it control a little bit more, other than the knockup. The mink is a really good initiation tool, and the turtle's a good getaway. But I definitely would have liked to see a little more utility out of it, like Fafnir's dash. Fafnir can disarm, and he can use that in so many different ways. It is actually it's like very effective on how it can be used. You can either throw out the hammer and stun out, like single out an enemy, and then single out the guardian, make sure he can't do anything, and then you dash in on the hunter and disarm him, and then you throw your power buff on your hunter. Well, now you just prevented any follow-up from the guardian, you kept the other hunter from farming, and you allow your hunter to farm all the more effectively. And that's what I liked about the tool of it. I personally don't level his disarm because the disarm already is potent enough, and I think it disarms for 1 and probably just under or just a little bit over 1 second, if I remember correctly. But it's still such a potent tool that can be used. That 1 second can add up in the early game. But I would have liked to see that a little bit more out of 72 transformations, especially with something like the spot weakness, but I can definitely see why he doesn't control with those because of his basic attack power. It'd be too strong for him. But the pin, on the other hand, is a really good control. A lot of people... Look, the feel I was getting was that instead of crippling and rooting, like it could have crippled and root, but still in the outer radius, why couldn't it have slowed? I kind of like where they were coming across. It would have been nice to see a slow out of it, but also, even if they did that, it wouldn't be as intense of a slow. It's kind of like with Bellona's ultimate, you either get stunned and take damage, or you're in an area where you can't fight your enemy. So that's what I'm getting out of the pin, and it's definitely a good initiation tool. It's kind of like having the Bellona ultimate without the cost of an ultimate. So you could stay, even if I still think that Bellona jungle and Bellona support is a whole nother monster for me. But Bellona jungle is still very viable right now, like it was in Season 2. It still hasn't fallen off. There's just other options you can go. So if you want, especially since we're having a basic attack warrior now with Erlang Shen, you could theoretically take Erlang Shen either into the jungle or into the solo lane and still have a Bellona. So you do have 2 Bellona ultimates for the cost of 1. That will be a very good initiation tool. So one of them can single out an enemy, or both of them can single out an enemy while the other one initiates a team fight. So that is a very good tool to have. As for the cripple, the cripple I feel is a bit much because, especially in the laning phase, there's not a lot of warriors, honestly, that have dashes or jumps to get out of a route, other than Raven, which I feel will be a good matchup. I don't know. I'll probably have to play around with the matchup a little bit before I know who counters who, but that will be just overall a very intensive, very good matchup, in my opinion. It's not going to be like Chang'e versus Vamana. We know Vamana wins every time. It will be a very good matchup to see. The 72 transformations, as I was going on about, I wish it had a little bit more control, but overall I think it's good the way it is, and I definitely like the buffs that it gives. It's very good the way Erlang Shen can use it. I still deep down wish it had more control, kind of like Sun Wukong's, but I'm not going to complain much because he already has a little bit more control in his kit. And the fact that he does have a cripple and a root, so he doesn't necessarily need something like a stun or a slow. But his ultimate is definitely something. I'm kind of biased when it comes to his ultimate. When I solo lane, I like to bully and sustain. I like to poke and then initiate on my terms. I want to fight on my turns on my own ground. And a lot of that because my favorite god is Chalk. He definitely does just that. He clears, he pokes out the lane. He can pretty much proxy clear without proxy clearing, and he has such good control out of him. Especially with the new item that came out. It was a new passive on Runeforge Hammer. I feel instead of using Frostbound Hammer for the health, Runeforge Hammer is a lot better for him right now because of that massive AoE slow that he gets that can be used in team fights. I can't remember if his ultimate also slows. If it does, it's not a large amount. But I think all it does is just knockups if you're close enough to it and silences. I don't think it actually does slow. If it does, then it'd be even more stronger for him. But since most people initiate by dropping the rainstorm anyway, there's no point. I guess that's all. That would be justified for it not having a slow because he already has an initiate that uses it. But the main thing about him that I'm trying to get at is the fact that he can bully, he can proxy clear, and he can sustain as long as he wants. That heal is intense. 9 turns blessing, because it's a chunk heal, I think it can benefit from Gauntlet of Thieves a lot better than Chalk or Raw. But he still falls into the category of another one of those warriors that doesn't bully as effectively, because of the fact that he doesn't heal in his he only heals in his ultimate. Like Vamana. Vamana is really good, but he's also really good at poking and keeping his distance and engaging on his terms, and then you have his ultimate. While Chalk is the other ways around it where he can out-sustain you, Vamana really can't unless he has his ultimate. But that's another thing about those warriors, that these ultimates are either massive chunk heals or massive heals over time. Like Vamana has a very intense heal for a heal over time. Now, the 85-second cooldown, at all ranks, I think that actually benefits from it. So, healing in ultimates is always a little... I take that with a grain of salt. You can't sustain very well. It costs you an ultimate that you could use elsewhere. But with a cooldown like 85 seconds at all ranks, that is a really good tool. You can actually use that specifically to sustain in lane if you choose to do that. Especially the way that it works, it's a taunt that gives him mitigation. So it's a good initiation. It's a good poke tool. It could be a beads burner actually in a way once you get the cooldown on it. So you could probably drop down to like a 50-second cooldown at max build. That could be a very good beads burn, especially if you top that off with like an Ares. There you go. Now, move on to the skins. Rockablona. I'm sorry, love this skin all day long. I will take the skin whenever I want. Please. I'm currently saving up the money. I'm trying to choose between a new microphone or this skin right now. So, like, if I have to make the choice, it has to be this skin, regrettably, because I'm sorry, it's Rockablona. It really is. Like, so, hang on, I gotta adjust myself here a little bit. But overall, I feel this skin is, like, really fun. It is beautiful. So, I don't know. I think it's limited. If it is, well, it's the first 2 items in the event, so it might just be an exclusive. But overall, this is, like, a really good skin. And then we have... I'm sorry, a Rastafarian Kepri Lobster Chef. I totally just want to make a Smurf called Red Lobster and buy this skin, though I'm pretty sure someone already beat me to it. Please, don't hit the mic, idiot. This skin is just glorious. I thought this was going to have like a Spanish accent or something, but when I heard the Rastafarian accent, just shut up and take my money, Hi-Rez. I'm sorry, you've earned it. You've totally earned it. It's kind of funny that Khepri is the one getting all the weird and wacky skins, and I also can't talk much because I missed out on the Hugbug deal, but I also am not really sad about it because, oh, it's actually releasing on my birth. No. Oh, no, it is? It's releasing on my birthday, people. So, but he's getting all the wacky skins, but he also has the serious, I think it was actually from the Odyssey last year, the, what is it called? The Mechanic Khepri. That's his serious skin, while the others are kind of like a laugh-off skin, but it's kind of funny how he's getting all those skins, but I swear the skin is perfect. Iron Maw, I don't know personally if this is a tier 2 skin. I really do not know. It looks like it, but it honestly looks like a tier 3. It's not tier 4 level, but it could definitely be a tier 3. Tier 2 to tier 3 easily. But, so definitely expect to pay between 200 to 400 gems for this. Cool skin. He always gets the cool skins, especially with the Ragnarok skin. A lot of people missed out on that. If this is a straight purchase, then it does people a lot of good. Frostbound Scotty. So I told Taylor about this skin, and she adores it, as far as I know of. As far as I know of, it is a tier 2. Just from my judging of the skin, really. Because looking at it, here's the way skins work. You have your generic ones, a tier 1 quote, which is your recolors, your tier 2s, which are the $200 gems. They don't deviate from the design, they just add a different look. Your tier 3s, which kind of add more to the tier 2s. Your tier 4s, which are overhauls and reimagines. And then tier 5, which are exclusives, and tier 6, which are limiteds. Now, that's the scale I personally use. There's a lot of people who go differently. And I don't know if that is the generic, is the same one that Hi-Rez uses. I personally can't remember, and I'm too lazy to figure that out. But this honestly looks like a tier 2. A very nice tier 2, might I add. Very well detailed. So, overall, Scotty needs some skin love anyway, even though she just came out with a skin. A tier 4 skin, might I add. But I guess this kind of adds to it if you can't get that one, or if you want something a little more lore accurate, that's where this comes in. So, still a good skin all around. And then, well, we're not going to go to the recolors. The God card. Yes. If you guys don't know, if I can stop hitting my microphone. If you guys don't know, what is it? What is it? Heavy metal? Hang on one moment. So I want to pull this up first. Beforehand. Yeah, so if you guys don't know, and don't know why this is actually justified. Oh, okay. The wiki updated. If you get, it's still updated. What? Skip. I just want that one skin. Come on, dude. Come on. I just want that one image. That one. You kidding me? You're kidding me, right? You're joshing me, right? Okay. Fine then. Be that way. So. I can't find the original card. It's pulled up, but I think it updated on the wiki, and that's where it comes from. So this is the little screenshot using the old card art. And actually, this is actually it right here. Oh, you can't even see it. Oh, that's too bad. Hang on. Easy fix. Voila. So this is like a banner made from it. And this, right where my face is, let me move that over for you guys. So this skin this is the original card art right here. So I think this came out like in beta. That explains why it is the way it is. Oops. So, but then we move on to something like this. This definitely matches the theme, especially with the rest of his other card arts. Still follows the theme of it, the overall encompassing theme. because that card art was just a little out of place for Thor. So it's definitely good to see this small little quality of life update. And then we have the, I know how to play the game and I know how to play the gods, but we're just not going to do this. But as Odin kill 15 gods in a single match using Razor Shot and Lunge together. That is easy. As Odin kill inside you. Okay, is this all at once? Kill 4 enemy gods inside your ring. So is that's actually a question I like answered. Is that all at once or is that overall? And then we got twice. Because I missed the achievements. I don't know if they did go over the patch notes or something, but I just missed them. Water. Beautiful. As I get this on with the enemy 5 times. Okay, so be a bully. Play Hercules pretty much. That's pretty much it. As AMC, pick up 5 stingers in a single match. Okay. And disarm. AMC disarm an enemy god. Do AMC things. Not that hard. We know how Summer Smite's going to work. It's just like Escape to the Underworld. It's not Summer Smite 2015. I remember that one. That one was more like an Odyssey. Still followed the same idea, but it was definitely an Odyssey. Yeah, imagine like Season 2 Odyssey when Archon Thanatos came out. That's what 2015 was. Okay. So layout, which is something you know what's funny? I was actually just thinking about this. I was actually just about to post this on the forums after the patch notes, asking for something like this. And when they started off with this, my day was made. Because that's kind of one of those things I wanted. It kind of sucks when you start Guardian, and Mark of the Vanguard is a recommended item, but you're sitting there in the back of your head and like, I'm not going to use Mark of the Vanguard. And it's right here on the first page. So you have to find whatever you want. Or I think actually on Fafnir, it does, Watch's Gift isn't on recommended items for some strange reason. I guess because you can skip his passive. Most people would skip Watch's Gift for his passive. I personally don't. I still get Watch's Gift until I boost because I want gold. I get very greedy and I want health. So, Shield of the Underworld. That's just all I'm going to say. Is just Shield of the Underworld. I definitely like that this is coming back. I definitely appreciate its return. It can be used because before it was just used with Hades Ultimate. Now I think with a lot of the different gods coming out, this is definitely one of those. Definitely one of those. Not one of those gods. One of those relics that can be used in so many different ways and is so successful just for it being the way it is. A lot of people feel this way, and I'm one of them as well. If it's kind of like a sanctuary or reduces the amount of damage you take while reflecting it, but I think that's also difficult to make because it reflects the damage you take, and it will be difficult in many situations. And with a cooldown of 120 seconds, it's not perfect, but it's not great at the same time. It's definitely a very balanced relic, and I definitely appreciate the way it is. I personally think it should have came out sooner, when Golden Bow was still in the game, but I'm not going to complain. Phantom. Everyone else was just freaking out about this. What are we going to use this for? When the passive first came out, I loved the idea. It gets you out of Odin rings. It gets you out of anything. But it was the fact that you had to rely on a passive of an item you had to buy in order to get it. So, it's not quite worth it because you have to cost yourself a relic. But now that it's actually its own relic, and it also gives reduction. What is it? Basic attack wound penalty, 100% reduction. So it's hastened without having to land basic attacks. That is so extremely helpful. That makes gods like actually both Thorns and Phantom make gods like Anubis all much more worth it because they don't have escapes. But if you give them something like this will definitely bring them back into the meta. And those were very balanced gods. Like Anubis hasn't been touched at all, and then just now he just receives a little bit of a buff, where they widened his ultimate to make him a little easier to use. That just shows you how they well-designed gods. And the fact that Neith, who's already an extremely balanced god, as we were talking about last night, Neith is extremely balanced, extremely fair in the way she plays, and she is very much not tilted. So this is kind of one of those relics that definitely helps out gods like that. Very balanced gods, or gods that don't have escapes. I see Scotty use this because, it's very fun to single out a Scotty with like a wall or something, you know? So, Blink. This I felt was needed. Because Blink is so difficult to use. You know, you have to wait 5 seconds to use it. And even still, that 3 seconds will kind of hurt, but nowhere near as much as the 5 seconds. But it's just going to make something like a Blink Artemis a lot more effective. But I seriously think they could expand on this by reducing the cooldown. If they want to keep it at 5 seconds, keep it at 5 seconds by all means. But reduce the cooldown. The cooldown is 120 seconds, I think. Yeah, it's 120 seconds because it's 2 minutes. But waiting that long for that blink is what's murder. And we don't have a combat blink. So this kind of helps on that. But the cooldown should really be reduced to like 80 at least, you know? If it could be cooldown reduced to like 50, the way Wrath is, by all means, yes, love that. But it also makes gods a little too slippery. But 80 seconds would definitely be a good balance, in my opinion. But I don't work for Hi-Res. You know, there's a reason for that. Curse, I feel, is definitely... Whoa. My cursor just, like, went flying. Curse is the next one up. And... Curse, the 65% healing down to 50, I feel is more quality of life, really. It keeps you from getting pinned down. It keeps you from getting put into a corner. Like, if you already... Prime example would be Vamana Ultimate. You're already put in a corner to have to use the Ultimate. Well, now someone has Curse, you're stuck in even more of a tighter situation. But down to 50 is more quality of life, so you're still healing a lot because he heals every half second, I think. So either that or it's every second. So he kind of benefits from that a little bit more because that's his only way to sustain, and he has to be in a tight situation to use it. So that's a quality of life thing, and I think that actually balances out with Sprint a little bit more. So, Frenzy... It's Frenzy. You know, there's definitely other relics could have been gone, but, you know, I'm not going to extremely complain. Because I don't see Frenzy a lot unless it's gods that are trying to use Golden Bow, like Artemis. Other than that, Frenzy is kind of one of those items that you don't really need. Personally, as a support player, I just pick up Shell, you know? So, Scout, I feel like they're forcing us to try and use this item, as well as everyone else I've spoken with last night. You know, Scout is a good item. Scout is very nice. Especially if you're like a Fafnir. You know, you want to save up your gold for the passive. But also, if you get Watcher's Gift and Talaria Boots, you build out that passive almost instantly. You get that passive back after spending your gold. So, the Scout is helpful for those who can't allocate gold, but I also feel bad because it's kind of like a play from behind situation. So it's an interesting relic, but there's a lot of places I can see where it goes. I'm just not seeing it go there yet. Sprint, I definitely like the nerf to it, where they pretty much overall nerfed it. They reduced the cooldown, yes, and they increased the cooldown. No, they reduced the duration and increased the cooldown. Can I learn to talk, please? And Sprint, I kind of like that a little bit more because it kind of extends too much. And if you have a Mercury, it's a power buff for him, especially if it's going to last 6 seconds. And it has 140 second cooldown. So this overall nerf is very nice. It also kind of tilts it a little bit more to Curse's advantage, but it also forces you to play a little bit smart because it's short duration and it is a short cooldown. Actually, how long is Curse's duration? Because that can also influence it as well. Yeah, Smite Curse. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. So, for 5 seconds. Okay, yeah, actually I can see that. And I see the 6 seconds because it's probably going to take you a whole 1 second to realize you're cursed and to use your sprint. So I can kind of see that. But also, it was 140 seconds, so it was already coming up faster than Curse did. So it was more tilted to sprint. But now I feel the way it's designed now with the overall nerf, you have to play a little bit smarter with sprint. You have to time it a lot better than you had to have before. So that's why I kind of like it a little bit better, the way it is. You know, it's not an overall tilted match to sprint. It's a kind of a balancing act. You have to be smart. Is this a time to use a sprint to get out of Curse? Or could you wait for it, you know? Probably even wait for something. We'll probably wait for something like a Airline Shangled. That would be a perfect time to use a sprint, in my opinion. So when someone initiates and you initiates with Curse, or if an Erlang Shen comes in with a Curse, well, now you have the problem of trying to time it. Now that the Curse is down, Erlang Shen has his ultimate. Are you going to wait until after the ultimate to use the sprint? Or are you going to use it beforehand? And now you're sprinting to the Erlang Shen. You know, it's a balancing act, really. So I think you definitely have to play a little bit smarter with this. This is one little change, and you have to play a lot smarter with it. Let me get my drink. Sunder. Sunder is a fun relic. Sunder is definitely fun, especially when you use it in duel. And I definitely like it that it's not much of a damage item anymore, because everyone was complaining about how overpowered it is when it came out. But a lot of people forgot that it's a slow-firing skill shot that is often difficult to see. So this is a lot more effective. Well, overall, the relic was great. It was great the way it was used. But now, oh my gosh. And it applied the reduction is increased, so it's going to be a lot more of a poke target. It's going to be more effective with something like an Odysseus' bow or an Ichabod, something in that tree. And the 30% attack speed reduction is something extremely major. That is how you prevent someone from farming. However, I feel that would be more effective if Golden Bow was still in the meta. But since Golden Bow is being taken out of the game, a lot of the gods that will take advantage of their attack speed for farming reasons have fallen off. But for boxing, it's still very good. And that's overall what Sunder is for. It's for boxing and less of farming. Teleport, don't get me started. I even go so far as to get teleport in duel. That's how much I rely on it. The extra second, I feel like I could go out and get myself a beer by the time I teleport. It's sad. But I also feel that's also very good because a lot of people, like myself, tend to use teleport for an escape. So it's an interesting thing to see. It will definitely be interesting to see how it plays out. I feel that they're eventually going to change it back or add on like damage mitigation or something to make it a little bit easier. Either that or decrease the cooldown. And actually, I would appreciate them decrease the cooldown because I think it's at 150 seconds right now. Wrath, yes. Just yes. Yes. Because, it's not 55 seconds. It was a 60. So, we're starting to see Old Hog back again. And miss that. I missed the daylights out of that item. It's definitely good to see Wrath going back to that. It's definitely good. I know I'm supposed to be playing Smite. It's just I think this is a good time to go over the patch notes because the meta is going to be completely changing. So it's good to have something going. But Wrath overall, It's going to be interesting the way to see it play out, but the fact that they didn't really they increased the threshold of it, but or increase the damage, not the threshold, because I keep reading that that's a threshold that it kills a jungle boss like the Gold Fury, but you know. But I feel like we're just going back over it. I feel like this is a good time to go back over the patch, talk about the meta changes. Probably get this on YouTube so we can keep the discussion going before I start playing Smite. And we'll see if I play the PTS or something or not, and see how these play out. But it's good to see Wrath definitely come back into it. This will make things like Sun Wukong jungle a little more viable, but that also was viable back when the cooldown was 60 seconds. Now that it's 90 seconds, you're going to have to definitely play smart with this relic. And that's what I really like seeing. I like seeing that you have to play smart. You have to make decisions. You have to weigh circumstances. And that's what, at the beginning of the season, that's what everyone agreed on. That's what Hi-Rez agreed on. This is not a meta where everything is OP. This is not a meta where everything is just the way it is. You're going to have to play smart. There's balances and counterbalances. There's reasons you go this god, and there's reasons you don't go this god. It pretty much related to the same reason of why you wouldn't play Ao Kuang in the mid lane, why he's really only good as a jungler. I definitely like that we're really starting to see that. It took into the middle of the season to see this, but I definitely like that this is what we're seeing, that we're going to have to start playing smarter. Ritual Dagger, I will take it anytime. This is going to be extremely good, especially for support players who pick up something like Shell. This is going to be one of those items that will staple them, especially since it's in the same tree as Winged Blade. So you can either choose your anti-slow, or if you're going for engages, you can do this. So your Shell, your Curse, your Curse counts too, because it's duration. We were actually talking about this last night, and many of us kept reading this wrong. That it's the effect that is increased by 50%, not the duration. But it is in fact the duration. So it's not that Curse goes from 50 to 100%. It goes from 5 seconds to 10 seconds now. So, by 50%. Ooh, the John Chon challenge. So this is one of those weird relics that we're going to see a lot more of, or one of those weird items we're going to see a lot more of. The 200 health, I can't complain about, but I also would, I think Winged Blade actually gives 200 health, if I remember correctly. So it's an interesting trade-off. You're going to mostly do this for the passives of the item. So again, one of those times you have to play smart. Emperor's item, number one, I'm really good that this item is coming back because it was actually in beta, if I remember correctly. Same thing with Gauntlet of Thieves, but it was taken out at the beginning of Season 2, if I remember right. But it's good to see this item come back, and this is an interesting item because it can either go the way of supports or solo laners. Now, it's an interesting item because it's going to be in the Tree of Mystical Mail and Sovereignty because it gives protections and health. Unlike the Breastplate tree that only gives protections, not health. But this, we were talking about this last night, this could be a replacement for Breastplate of Valor if you could, because of the passive and the amount of health that it gives. It gives protections and health. You can't go wrong with that. But the problem lies that soul laners are going to go through a lot of mana. So if this is going to be a replacement for Breastplate of Valor, second item on warriors, we now have to deal with the problem that it doesn't give mana. So now when you build Jotuns, you don't have the cooldown you don't have as much cooldown reduction, you don't have as much mana. And that's like the staple of solo laners right now, is to get your warrior Tabi or your reinforced Greaves, not Greaves. And then you build Breastplate of Valor and Jotuns for them because it maxes out your cooldown and gets you a lot of mana. Once you get those two items, you instantly feel the difference. But since it doesn't give cooldown or mana, I don't feel it'll be a viable replacement, especially since a lot of soul laners don't buy into this tree. And a lot of supports don't do it either. A lot of us actually just skip this and go for Height of the Urchin, which gives us more overall health. Um, even without the stacks, it still gives better overall health for a relatively cheap cost. So it's going to be interesting to see how this item plays out. Venture's Blade, that's just to account for, Ritual Dagger? Yeah, Ritual Dagger. And Style. I love this item. I loved it back when I played with the item all the time with Season 2, and now it's making a comeback, and I enjoy it. I didn't actually use it as anti-mage. I often used it as an anti-ADC, in a way, because of the way the health stacked. I didn't really care about the magical protection. But this is actually an anti-mage item. Don't be as stupid as I was, even though it still worked. Now, Antile is very good. And now we're seeing a buff up to 60, and I think it also gives 40 physical. If it does. I'm still thinking Season 2 when it did give physical protection. But now with this passive, this is what I was talking about. No, this wasn't what I was talking about. Different item. But Antile, this is a very good item because it's a Mantle of Discord replacement for pretty much half the cost. It doesn't give you like the cooldown and the massive amount of protections, but the passive definitely is a replacement. So if you're falling behind and you need some protections and you need the passive of Mantle of Discord, but you can't get it, go into the Antile tree. Literally half the passive and half the cost, or half the protections and half the cost, and you get the similar passive. And it will still help you get along if you can't get that gold up. And Fafnir is pretty much the only one that can get gold for Mantle of Discord from behind. So this is definitely a good item for not Fafnirs. So, what? Someone care to explain what's going on with this? I'm at a loss right now. So, okay. It's Bancroft's talent, not Executioner. But girlfriend's sending me text messages right now. So, Bancroft's Talon is one of those items. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, did they even change Executioner at all? Because if it isn't, then I think they just, I don't want to say a spoiler. Yeah, Bancroft's got buffed. It's just the Executioner's right here, so I'm just like, I don't know what they're doing with this item. I think this was just like accidentally placed, as you were saying. But Bancroft's, I feel, is, I always pick it up on Anubis, and I don't play Anubis very much. Okay, yeah, just making sure. Just making sure they didn't do a thing with Executioner, because Executioner is just fine. But Bancroft's, I feel, I always pick it up on Anubis, especially because he's a god without an escape. But I do appreciate that they added this little passive in there, because this was an issue where you got it for the little bit of power, but mostly for the lifesteal, nothing more. This will help him a lot more, get him more lifesteal, and allow him to be that peel by damage type of god. So, like Scotty, where you can't get close enough to her, especially when her ultimate's available. This is definitely what that item is good for, and I thoroughly appreciate the existence of this item. But now that they updated the passive, I could definitely see it go much farther, more than gods like Anubis. It's probably going to go even gods like Ra in a possibility, because of the fact that he doesn't have an escape and he's got slow movement speed unless he uses abilities. So overall, it's good to see this item make a comeback. And it'll probably be good to see what type of gods will start using that item more. Golden Bow and Throwing Dagger. This is probably, for being the least amount of changes, is probably the most influential thing, because it was a staple of this season. And as the most we've talked about last night, we still don't know where we're going to go. Opwash, definitely Opwash with Bancroft. Actually, I think that's what we even talked about last night. Opwash with Bancroft will definitely be a lot more intense, especially if he uses his ultimate as a last-minute escape. That ultimate will hurt a lot more with Bancroft's talent. The same thing with the corpses, which he uses to get his distance. This will be a great item for him, in all honesty. And did they change him? No, they didn't change him. So he'll still, if they like changed him a little bit, it would be a different story. But since he's the same way as he's always been, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Bancroft is going to be the staple for non-escape mages right now, especially with the updated passive. It's a little minor change, really, but it changes the tiers of the mid lane. But Golden Bow and Throwing Dagger is going to be interesting. One Punch Mercury will technically no longer exist, especially with Sprint now increased cooldown. So let's get Rips going, because Rip Mercury, Rip the Dream, Rip one. I'm going to use my Incon. I got to use my Incon Rip emotes, but this was a staple of One Punch Merc, and we were joking last night. It's like, I don't think Hi-Rez could really support the copyright. Yeah, Rip One Punch. We were joking, like, I don't think Hi-Rez could support the copyright of One Punch Man anymore. But yeah, One Punch Merc was definitely a good time. But now that Golden Mode's taken out of the game, farming, not only for One Punch Merc, farming is now going to be difficult for a lot of gods. We were seeing gods we've never seen before. People were saying Braum haven't been played before, but my personal opinion, so long as that man is playing Smite, Rom will be in the meta. People will want to play Rom and Hou Yi. A lot of those skill shot, non-clearing gods. As long as that man is playing, those type of gods are going to be played. But Golden Bow is definitely a staple of them, especially gods like Artemis. Artemis is very intense, a very difficult god to play against. I ban her all the time in duel because she's just so difficult for me, personally, actually. But she can be difficult to fight, especially if you give her a Golden Bow. Instead of maxing out the volley of arrows, you just max out her passive, which gives her more crit time. It gives her more chances to land crit. So it's so bad, really. And that's why she was so intense when Throwing Dagger and Golden Bow had crit. Because of the fact that you could just max out her buff instead of her volley of arrows and use that as clear instead. And then Apollo benefited from this so greatly. So this was a staple of every ADC in the game. Without it, I think we're going to either go back to Tier 2 Soul Eater or Devourer's Gauntlet. I think Soul Eater more, because without Golden Bow, it's going to be more difficult to clear. So we're going to see a lot of hyper-clearing gods like Neef. So if you're going to go that, it's going to be a hyper-clearing god. Or if you want to go like the Boxers or the Skill Shotters like Hou Yi and Rom, you're going to go after Transcendence. Because Transcendence is... Whoa. Hey, hello. Just talking about the patch as usual. Mic's probably not set up right. I probably screwed up my mic settings in TeamSpeak. Playback. Hi-Fi. What was this? I'll use the back panel. Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah, just turn up my volume, because I can't change my volume in TeamSpeak, and I'm not using my mixer. Don't do that, because, rip headphone users. So, as I was saying, a lot more of the skill shotters are going to use Transcendence a lot more now, because it's one of those items that you spend so much gold on. But it is so worth it. You don't have to stack it. I swear by this. You buy the item, you instantly feel the difference of the mana gain. The stacks are just a add-on to help you get through the farming phase. Once you start using your abilities for farming and you get those stacks, well, now you're getting mana. It's almost like Kronos' mana refund. It's almost just like that. Because if I remember correctly, it increases your maximum mana. Mathematically, it technically gives you a refund. I'm not going to go into the details about it. I probably will at some point, but we're probably going to see that come back. So it's either tier 2 Soul Eater, not tier 2 Devos, because farming situation. We'll probably see a lot, but that's just estimation. I'm going to have to play with the numbers a little bit more and crunch a lot more math to really figure out what we're going to do. But I personally feel that we're probably going to go back to tier 2 Soul Eater, not tier 2 Devos, or Charge Morningstar, tier 2's Transcendence, because they're so good items. But I think Transcendence only works if you can't get the 1400 to get Transcendence from the Charge Morningstar, then you just go ahead and start Boots. A lot of people have the habit of not starting a new item until they finish another one, and it's a bad habit to break. But I already broke that habit because when Season 3 started, I bought Tier 1 Boots and then finished Winged Blade without finishing my Boots. I was one of those people. But it worked surprisingly well. I'm kind of glad we moved past that because, there's other items that just could have been done. So, But that's all I'm going to really say about Golden Bow. We're just going to go back to Season 2 where we saw instead of Tier 2 Devos, we're going Tier 2 Soul Eater. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. Again, more math that I'll just have to do later. Heartseeker, this is another one of the items I'm feeling that Hi-Rez is almost forcing us to use. Heartseeker is still very good. It's also very good on Kali's and Loki's, but why go Heartseeker when you can go Stone-Cutting Sword? That it doesn't increase your attack speed, but it increases your penetration. It's almost like an Ichabod without getting Ichabod. That's what makes Stone-Cutting Sword good. That's what makes it extremely good on a Loki. But Heartseeker, I feel, is almost like I think they were saying, it's like a Soul Stone, but that attack speed, Artemis is really the only one I think who could benefit from it, and she can't afford it. And there's just other items she could go. It's kind of like I'm not saying Heartseeker is bad. Heartseeker is actually very good. I just feel that there's other options. It's kind of my argument with Nox. Nox is a very good mid laner. She's overall extremely, extremely good. She's got the setup, she's got the control, she's got the damage, but she only works if you have setups that go with her. So something like Xin Chen and a Naja, those have to be on the team. So unless you're going to work a team comp around that, there's just other options you can go. So that's just all I have to say about Heartseeker. Heartseeker is good. There's just other options. We'll just see how this plays out. I just personally feel that maybe you could just go Stone-Cutting Sword instead. Runeforge Hammer. This was what I would talk about a long time ago. I want to say actually 20, 30 minutes ago. I think we're 40 minutes into this now. Runeforge is extremely good item, just overall. But now that it has this new passive, so now gods like Chaac benefit from this so much more now because of his huge wide range AoE slow. I'm not talking when he heals himself, when you don't target your axe, when you use your axe, when you initiate the slow with your axe. That's what I'm talking about, because I'm sorry about hitting the mic. Because of the way it is, just how big the range is and the amount of team fight potential you can get out of this. Because what was that? Hang on 1 minute. Because Kit is your COC, so you got to talk to him. Yeah. So, um, with the slow, and this is a lot of us are reading this wrong, but we had to make clear enemies who are within 20 units of you and are slowed. So you can't like do a max range axe and then slow them. It has to be relatively close. So like pretty much drop the axe right on you while you're trying to fight, and then slow them. You know what I mean? So everyone's just sending me messages. This is what happens when you become battalion staff. So like drop the axe on you and then hit the slow. It doubles the range. So if, I do that all the time. If I'm boxing someone, just drop the axe on me. So you're already doing it. And then you can take advantage of this passive. And now they take 10% more damage from all sources. Minions, towers, buffs, abilities, dot damage, all sources. That covers everything. That can be incredibly intense. Now, I think that they still have to be within 20 units of you. So it's not like where you can circuit ult someone, and as they're getting away, they still take 10% more damage. No, I think they have to be still within 20 units of you. So it's a good scatter tool, much like Bellona Ultimate, where you can't fight in her ultimate, so you scatter. You move out of that ultimate. I'm sorry, guys. Everyone just has questions. So, don't change my mic input. So, this is one of those good scatter tools. It's a good control tool and great team fight, especially if you can stack on something like some type of control. Keep them in the area of the slow. Keep them inside the circle. All right, see you, Yellow. Keep them inside that circle. That's the best way to use it. So you could probably have someone like a Xing Chen, or even better, an Odin. So if you have someone who's really being ballsy and wants to go either Odin support or Odin jungle, this is one of those good situations. Have him ult, drop the axe, slow them. They take 20% more damage. They can't heal, and they're forced to stay in it. So you can pile on them with everything. This is going to be a great item to use, in all honesty, and it will definitely bring out some really interesting fights. Genji's Guard, updated visual effects. Okay, that's all I gotta say. Spectral Armor. Okay, once again, another item they're forcing us to use. Spectral Armor was great when it came out, being the only anti-lifesteal without building anti-heal. And anti-heal is okay because it gives you health at the same time, but it is so... Okay, I want to say pathetic, but it is so sad when you're trying to focus out a hunter and you have to build anti-heal against them, which is why go anti-heal, Spectral Armor was incredibly good because it gave anti-lifesteal, so you could single out the hunter if there was no healer on the team, so you didn't have a need to build anti-heal of any kind. So it was just that situation where it was only if you wanted to counter a anti-lifesteal hunter. Other than that, if there was a healer, you just grab anti-heal. So Spectral Armor was a rare item to use. But they kept changing it. And now I feel with the new passive, I just don't think it's going to be worth it. The item will still fall out of favor. If they bring back the old passive, then yes, that will make the item much more worth it. I built it a lot to single out some hunters, but still, with the item now, when you activate one relic, I don't think, unless they give it like an incredibly good passive, like gives you not instead of ghost walking or cooldown reduction, or if they increase the cooldown to 5 seconds and it can only occur every 60 seconds. Okay, yes, perfect. That would be worth it. But unless they do something like that, I still think old Spectral Armor will be a better item than what it's becoming right now. Oh my god, is this how they felt? I just want to play Smite now. So I'm a Zenka. The honey, a quality of life thing, and this is what everyone was talking about. Is like, why would they do this tiny little change? Tiny little changes add up. Remember Anubis? I think it was either in season 1 or at the beginning of season 2. They gave him an adjustment because he was very imbalanced. They couldn't figure out his placement, so they adjusted his lifesteal by 1%. I think it was Bart who suggested this. 1%. They did that. Anubis has not been touched. This is like the first time he has been touched in forever. So, that just shows you how good those tiny changes can be. So the tiny changes of moving the offset distance, that can add a lot. We had to talk about this very extensively. Especially, overall, is a tiny change. We talked about this in detail. The honey, I feel, is a quality of life because of the way it scales and the way it dot damages. Because it's not the initial damage, it's the overall damage. So that dot damage can definitely be influential. That tiny little change, especially when it scales with your power items, is an interesting interaction. So seeing this tiny little change can add up a lot, especially if you're using a lot of different power items. That one damage at max rank can add up. And then his basic attacks, that's just player skill. It's quality of life thing. It's a quality of life thing. So it'll be. I'm not saying it'll be interesting to see how it works out. It's just more interesting as a non-hunter player that they would look into something like this. But this shows that those minor basic attacks count. And a lot of us were even talking about last night, why don't we use the... Oh, stop hitting the mic. Why don't we use the line targeter? The line targeter is nice, but it's actually centered on the model. It's not... It doesn't show you where your base attacks are going to be. It shows you where the center of your model is to give you an idea. It's more for range rather than figuring out where your base attacks are going to hit. So... that's where this little change falls down. It's very difficult to land his basic attacks. So, we'll just see how it goes. Even I can't play AMC. Anubis, as we were talking about, the base movement speed definitely helps because he doesn't have an escape. And if you tack on like the pastimes we were talking about, like the ghost walking, this will be a good change for him. This will bring him back into the meta a lot more than before. I'm not going to say he's like going to topple something like Giannis. He's not going to topple a Giannis. Nowhere in hell. I will happily print out my words and blend them together into a smoothie and drink them. Literally eating my words if Anubis topples Giannis. Because I don't think Anubis can ever topple a Giannis. His damage output is amazing, but the amount of control and amount of escapes that Giannis can offer, and his ultimate is so powerful to use. I don't think Anubis could ever top him. But seeing his Mummify reduced, since that's his setup, that would be a lot more used a lot more. So I think that 2 seconds can definitely change the tide of battle. Around the mid game, late game, I don't think so, but around the mid game, that cooldown can add up very quickly. And the Death Gaze, as I said, that thing is difficult to hit, especially since it's only good if you hit every single tick. It ticks 0.1 seconds for 3 seconds, and it only works if you max out those ticks, hit as many as possible. So increasing the radius just that little bit, it not only is aesthetically pleasing, but it also makes sure that you can aim it a little bit more effectively. Rather than going Mummify and then ult, you can actually rely on other forms of CC to make sure. If someone's even slowed, you could use it instead of stunned or rooted and crippled. So this is going to be an interesting interaction we're going to see. Quanger Banger, hence his name. A lot of people are saying, why reduce it by 10? What is it, 10%? No, it's 10 damage at the start, but it falls off very quickly. So why that? Mainly, the Windstorm or the Wildstorm is a little too strong. A lot of people level the dragons. I personally level the Wildstorm. It's kind of like leveling the 2 on Vamana, the Armored Umbrella, because it's so bursty. It's so quick. You don't expect it. And it's because it's, what is it, 30% threshold on his execute. He can hit you with the basic attacks from the dragons. Wildstorm hit you with a couple more dragons, or hit you with the one dragon, and you're below his threshold within no time. And that's all he's trying to do. That's why he's really good as a jungler instead of a mid laner. He can't burst you down 100 to 0. He can burst you down 100 to 30. So that's where this falls in. This allows him to have to play smarter, which is what I'm trying to get at. You have to play a lot smarter with Quangbanger. You have to play a lot smarter with your positioning. You have to examine your targets a lot more. So we'll see how this goes out. The Arachne change, actually, I appreciate. It's still, I don't want to say it goes away with the old Arachne where her web acts as a ward, because she still places it. But it's just so more aggressive now. I like this, She can actually, because that's it. She can rely on her spiders, and that's if the other god is stupid enough to walk into the webs, or if you're smart enough to figure out how to place it. I just realized I'm on the Dutch one, am I? Why am I? I just realized this. Why am I on the Dutch Smite webpage? What? Load, please. Okay. Well, I'm glad they didn't translate that into Dutch. The whole patch notes. Just give that a second. Or I guess that's the only one that will load. Oh, wait. Nope. It loaded. There we go. Little tiny change, okay? Surprised no one pointed it out. Come on! I suck at this. But I like this now because before you had to play too smart with her, now you can be very aggressive with her because you have to control someone to where you can hit your basic attacks. That's pretty much it. That's if you had missed the web, but now it's a projectile, and if it misses, it leaves a web for them. Yeah, it's more difficult to hit because you can't position it right where you want it, but I think that does it a lot of justice, So it will be so interesting to see how this plays out. Going to be a lot more fun to play, in all honesty. Aphrodite. DM Brandon tweeted this out. I think either last night or today. Aphrodite will benefit much more if she has a movement speed buff. Because her issue is that mid to late game she can't keep up with the hunters and the assassins. So she can't keep the kiss on them. That pretty much tethers the hunter or assassin to them. So, be it as you will, I have to agree with DM that, or Brandon, I forgot, the Juice the Juice community. That he's not the only one. But I have to agree with Brandon that she's strong, she's good, she's great, she's fabulous. But what about the kiss? It's very difficult for her to keep up with these different assassins and hunters. And what's a guy that gives their own movement speed boost? For some reason, I'm drawing a blank there. She has difficulties catching up with them because she's so slow. So if that can come out a little bit more, maybe she could see a lot more use in today's meta. But because she can't keep the kiss on everyone, I think not that she falls off. I think more of she just has issues. But her passive, I definitely like. Ow. Microphone. Shh. Her passive, I definitely do appreciate her passive the way it is. It would be an interesting interaction, but she could definitely go back to Soul Lane if she chooses to, because of how the passive works. How it kind of acts as a ward. So, a lot of people are saying that's overpowered. I personally think it can be very helpful in the support lane, and even in the solo lane, And that's sad because I think it was it was yesterday. I was watching Incon stream, and he was with a solo laner, a Aphrodite solo lane, who was completely owning a tier. Let me say that again. An Aphrodite solo lane owning a tier solo lane, as in like 2 or 3 levels behind, but like 8 minutes in. That bad. That just shows you Aphrodite is not bad. She is great. She is fabulous. I just want to see where she grows. This is going to be interesting. So we'll just see how this happens. Chang'e increased the heal. Okay, so a lot of people are saying this is a healing meta. Until they buff like Rod of Healing or Rod of Asclepius, which I call Rod of Asclepius, until they buff those items, this is not a healing meta. Yeah, they make healers a lot more needed, a lot more valuable, but until they buff those healing items, I don't think that this is truly a healing meta. I think we're still in more the tank meta. So, Fafnir. That's all I have to say. All I have to say. Just, for Fafnir, the way he is, I felt he was a little underwhelming. The way he was. I felt he was a little anticlimactic when he went into his ultimate. And I'm glad that Hi-Rez saw that. When he spends this time to turn into this dragon, he should be feared. He should be respected. Rather than only singling out gods that don't have escapes. Like, when I play Fafnir, I would just completely go after the Anubis every single time because he can't get away from me. But now not the increase in damage. I definitely like the stun increase to 1.5 at all ranks. Definitely more effective. Oh, they did increase the damage by 10. But they also increased the ticks. I love it. I truly love it because now he is a force to be reckoned with. You shouldn't be able... I've had times where I stay in Fafnir Dragon Breath, just been like, okay, I don't need to dash out. I'll just stay in here. If I'm Guan Yu, I'll just heal up as I go because he is giving me ticks on my passive. But now he is a force to be reckoned with. It ticks more often and for more damage. Makes him much more effective. Yeah, he can burst down a Calder much faster now than he did before, but this is just what he needed. He was so underwhelming when he went to his ultimate for this huge god. So he's still a great god. This just makes him better. The Guan Yu, all I really have to say about Guan Yu is that I love what they did because they added more utility to him. Guan Yu is more if you watch how I play Guan Yu, this is pretty much it. Ult, go in, shred protection, slow. You pretty much press 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not gonna lie, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's pretty much how you play him. And then otherwise, you're just going to go in 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1 every single time. Get those stacks up, shred protections, and then heal everybody. But now he has a lot more utility. Yeah, his stacks will be harder to get, but he has a lot more uses for them anyway. And the fact that the heal is much stronger. Well, no, it's still double heal when he has max stacks, so it's still difficult to get actually. But everything else, double the slow, increase protection shred. Oh, it's a steal? Oh, I thought it was a shred, not a steal. And then the stun is increased by 1 second. Makes more of your protections gone, because I think it takes 1, 2, 3. So it's roughly 4 seconds, actually. So you can have your reductions reduced by, at max rank, 15. No, 15, 30, 45. So 30. So that can add up very quickly. So it's just so good to see him have all this utility right now. So definitely interesting to see how he goes. Hell, again, not part of healing meta because healing items are still not compensated for these high heals. So it's not healing meta. But I like how Hell is coming along. She's still not a mid laner, but she's still more of a solo laner, especially with her ability to switch in and out. Much faster now, much more effectively. She is more reliable in the solo lane now. So definitely solo lane hell is coming back. It will be so interesting to see how this works, but I still don't think she'll be support, maybe. But her movement speed buff at all ranks, 25% at all ranks, that is incredibly helpful when you're trying to fight for like Gold Fury or something like that. So she definitely starts picking up in the mid game when her control starts coming in. Naja, I think he needs this because it's so annoying when you're dealing with a Naja and you think, oh, he's low, he's below my threshold. 2 heals because he held on to those 20 stacks for 20 minutes of the game. So it's definitely good to see that the stacks aren't permanent, so he has to play very smart about it. And the buff he gets from it is incredibly helpful. I think it's still similar to what he had before, if not it's the same, other than the fact that the stacks aren't permanent. But the spear definitely helps out a lot more. Microphone. Overall, I think that Naja is still more effective. He just, like all the other gods, has to play smarter. So, no more of the going in, shredding people. You have to plan. You have to play chess. Odin. People say all the time, Odin's OP. I can't say Odin's OP, though his 3-second ultimate is pretty nice, as an Odin player myself. But his new passive is I thought that was replacing the old passive, but no, he still has the Ring of Spears where he gains 5 attack power for every god that dies inside the ring. I think that still caps out at 10. It doesn't say specifically, but I just want to be sure. Because it gains permanent stacks of 5 power for each enemy god that dies inside the ring. So that can't be all at once. That's spread out. It's probably still maxed out at 10. I don't think it has no cap. But the new passive is very, very nice. Very appreciated. It allows him to get more mobility, allows him to catch up with targets, and it's when any god dies on the battleground. So I don't know if this is like Ice's passive where she has to see it. I think this is just overall he gains 10%. Otherwise, since he is a team fighter, he can still benefit from this greatly. Raijin. What more is there to talk about Raijin? He's not going to be as tanky. Even though he wasn't truly tanky, he was still somewhat tanky. Ratatoskr will be so nice. Because Ratatoskr, he'll still be strong in the solo lane, and I definitely agree with him where for the amount of control he has too much damage. That 10 damage, kind of like what I was saying with Aokwang and AMC, will still... It's mostly because of how it scales with his items. So, the amount of CC he has and the items he's going to get, that 10 damage is just a little too much. And then the HP, considering he gets HP 5 from his Acorn, which replaces his boots. Wait, I think so. I think they copied the Emerald Acorn. So it still gives him HP 5. It still gives him move speed and the power, or actually more power. And movement speed, actually. But I think it still gives him some type of healing, I think. Don't quote me on that. But if it does, then that explains why they reduced the HP 5, or the HP per level. So, overall, still a quality of life choice. Sylvanas. My baby Sylvanas is coming back, man. Sylvanas is back. Because 12 seconds to 5 seconds. That is so annoying. That is Adonis saying he hit the nail on the head. You are sitting there waiting for grass to grow. You are watching the grass grow when you're waiting for the sprouts. So seeing that adjustment is so nice. It still gives you time to counter him, but you don't have all the time in the world. You don't have to stand on top of your Blossom to try and save it. And the MP5 from the Blossoms, this was the greatest thing ever because before I would have to level my wisps and then I would have to skip a level on it to level the seed. And that's something you can't afford to do because that's his only form of poke and his only form of health-wise sustain. So you can't take that level skip on it. Hence why he went out of the meta. Literally, he was numbers before Fafnir came out. He was 76 out of 76 because of that. But now that it's 20 at all ranks, he has a lot more sustain. He can focus on his heals and his damage a lot more. So it allows him to be more, not. He'll still have to play smart, but he won't have to play from behind as much. Vamana, no point to him, and Vulcan. This is like Overwatch. Sylvan's top 5 now. I won't say top 5, but maybe like top 5. Probably top 10 out of the Guardians. I would personally, on my list of Guardians, I would personally put him as like 8 or 7, somewhere around in there. They're mostly, when it comes to sustained Guardians, definitely Sylvanas is up there. When it comes to damage and controls, that's when he doesn't follow up, doesn't really hit the nail. He's a setup god. It's kind of like Nox, Sylvanas is good. It's just unless you rely on the setup, there's just other options you can go. So if you want the sustain, Sylvanas all the way. Sylvanas is definitely up there. As for damage and control, he isn't there. He's just the setup, so that way someone can damage for him. So we'll see how he goes. Top 5, we'll see. He's definitely top 10 though. Vulcan is like Torbjorn from Overwatch. You might as well give him an ultimate that buffs his turret and everything and shouts out Molten Core. That's what he does. Because his new passive is very nice. It's a good adjustment for him, especially the way he is. He's a great poking potential. Give him a little more power, and because of the way he is, where he kind of tunnel visions after a while and can get ganked by a Najah easily, this allows him a lot more opportunities to fight that, to resist that. This will be very helpful for him. The only thing I think they could do better is if it actually, instead of changes it, like the way I would have done it is maybe when he uses his ultimate, his turret, whether it's out or not, gets a small damage and attack speed increase, something like that. And it does this until the turret's destroyed or replaced. That would be something I would do. Or when the turret, and I don't want to say heals off of killing an enemy, but it has some type of heal or damage or movement speed. I think that's what would really help if it did have a damage, movement speed, damage, attack speed, or health increase, or a healing buff of some kind. That would make the turret a lot more useful in the early game, because not a lot of people will level that. They're going to level either the meatball or going to level the dash, not really the turret. I personally level the turret so that way I can start soloing camps. And that turret helps a lot, but only if I have someone else to set up for it. Someone to keep them in the turret. Yeah. Because a lot of people still use that. And if you hit an enemy guy with an ability, so hit them with a meatball, they start running away, you turn around and use the dash to dash toward them, and you still have that movement speed since it's so quick to fire. So you still have like 4 seconds left of that movement speed buff. You could do that if you really want to chase. Granted, you use your one little burst to get to him if he's really that far away. But other than that 50% movement speed, so theoretically he starts up at 360. He gets the buff. He goes up to 15%. That's roughly 370, 380. I'm not going to do the exact numbers. He can catch up to almost anyone, especially if they don't have an escape. An Anubis, for example. So, I don't mean to pick on Goobus. I love Goobus, bless his heart, but Vulcan can definitely be a bully. Yeah, Vulcan, I don't want to say has been out of the meta. He's been in the meta, especially his ability to solo camps. You get that thing to even rank 4, the turret to rank 4. You can just drop it on a camp and mind your own business. and the buff's done for you. But now he's going to be a lot more formidable the way this is going, especially with things like Bancrofts coming back. With the way the passive works now, he's going to benefit from that greatly. And then, as you say, get full cooldown on him. He still gets so much power out of that, and he can pummel you to death, bully you until you can't be bullied anymore. So, it's going to be fun fighting against the Vulcan. I don't say that a lot, but I do mean it this time. This is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very fun to fight against it because you don't see. Why did I just click that? It's going to be very interesting to see how he turns out. So overall, I think it's a good patch. There's a lot of quality of life changes. It's not like overly. It's not like the Season 3 patch when Season 3 started. It's not like that where they just completely flopped everything over. It's still a very well balanced patch. It's a very quality of life patch, not over adjustment changes. They're more like things we've been talking about, things that have been common sense. People have been wanting, like more utility with Guan Yu. You want to do more stuff. Now you can do more stuff. Now you're more dynamic. So this is going to be one of those interesting. I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but it's going to be very interesting the way it turns out. It's going to be, especially with the new items, the meta is going to shift a little bit better. I really want to know what happens with Emperor's Armor. That is the key thing I want to see. What's going to happen with it? Is it going to replace breastplates? Or is it going to replace Hide of the Urchin? What's going to happen? Either that, or I'm the only guy who builds Hide of the Urchin's second item on Guardians. I hope I'm not the only one. But, Emperor's Armor is going to be so interesting. I'm personally excited for that. And Ritual Dagger, because, that can be a huge teamfight potential. A Guardian can pick that up and rely on Shell, and voila. You have 10 seconds of Shell. That would be very good if you have to disengage in the fight, or if you're like most people, you're a Guardian, you want to fight, you shell everyone, no one wants to go in just yet, but they also have that couple extra seconds to figure out, do they want to do it? So, or, wait for the right time. Preemptively shell and get ready. Or, you get caught in a, let's say, Odin Ultimate. You get ringed in. The team fight starts. You shell. Since the ultimate lasts 4 seconds, shell lasts 5 seconds. So there's no follow-up time. If you use Ritual Dagger, if you have the passive, and you use shell, that lasts 10 seconds. So, wait, when you use a relic, the duration of that relic. So there's no cap on it. It's not like every 30 seconds. So I just want to make sure of that. So you can have shell your team and then wait for the Odin Ultimate to go down. You have 6 seconds left to follow up. That is intense. That can turn any team fight against you, even if you lost like 2 or 3 members in the Odin ring. Now you can turn it against him. And he'll still get the power buff from his passive, but you have the protections to help you. It almost counteracts it. It's kind of like the Sprint Curse counteraction. The Sprint Curse counter. So this will be so interesting to see. I still think of that Odin Ultimate, so we'll just see how this turns out. So overall, very nice patch. We'll see how it turns out. I'm probably going to play PTS later on tonight, probably off stream, to kind of do more of my calculations. So everyone wants me, I swear. So for right now, I'm going to take like a quick 5-minute break to rest my voice, and then I'm going to go in and we're going to play some Smite. We're going to have a good time. So I'll play like a Jonathan Young song as always, and we'll get to doing this. We'll get to having fun. So see you guys.